Welcome. All right. Thanks for being here. We've got Priscilla McKinney in the house. Hi, Priscilla. How are you?
Oh my gosh, I'm good, but it's so good to see you.
I know I'm just giddy over here seeing you live and in the flesh here on video. We are here to talk about Priscilla's book, Collaboration is the New Competition. Just came out. It's hot off the press. And I want to share a little bit about who Priscilla is, and then we'll get into why this matters so much. So first, I just want to preface, Priscilla, you're one of my favorite people. You and I met, I don't even remember, maybe it was like when Pause was coming out in 2017. I think we met like 2015 or 16 at
Yeah.
the Emerging Women Conference with our mutual friend Chantel. And you were so incredible and just on it. Like, I know you were doing all the marketing for that event, and then you continued to support Pause when it was coming out, and you even sent me little tchotchkes that said Pause on it that I still have. And I just am so honored now that I get to have you on the Pausecast. I feel like we've come full circle.
Yeah, this is. It is funny. I think just I saw that light in you when you would talk about, the book you were working on. I was like, yes, do it. This is going to be amazing because I could sense that I needed that message, and so I was excited to see it in the world a little bit for a selfish reason. But I've
Yes.
so enjoyed it. And I've seen how, even just the book and the idea really has, merged into a full company. And I know, from so many other people around us, how many people it's affected. So it's been just wonderful. And I don't remember sending you those things, but it totally sounds like stuff I would
Like,
do.
things just would come in the mail. And I'm like, what is this? And then I open it up, and it's this like beautiful porcelain, like basically a statue. It says Pause on it. And you gave me two.
Oh,
It wasn't one, you gave me two.
well, you got to put one at work and then at home. And now you
Yeah,
have two home
I
offices. So,
definitely do. Yeah, exactly, exactly. So it's awesome to have you here. So a little bit about Priscilla for everyone. Priscilla is a serial entrepreneur and founder of Little Bird Marketing. You have a deep love of for residual income and a penchant for jaywalking, and I love that because on your LinkedIn profile, you're also like an aspiring lunch eater.
yes, yes,
So
I aspire. I
so
aspire
noble
to
of
it every
you.
day.
So noble of you. So your expertise in strategic content marketing and social media influence for B2B professionals has taken you around the world. I know you do speaking, and now you've got your book out. You created the SOAR system, SOAR, and get so excited brainstorming new ways to increase revenue and collaborate that you often forget to eat lunch. Well, there we go. That's the aspiring lunch eater. Yes. And you are the host of your own world of podcast, Digital Transformation Success, and Ponderings from the Perch podcast. You hold the Bachelor in Cultural Anthropology. You know so much about people and how our minds work. I think that's what makes you a phenomenal businesswoman and leader and entrepreneur in your company. And just be careful if you give you caffeine. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that would be horribly crazy because you're
Yeah,
already full of energy, is full of
I
beans, as we would say,
I
which is why I
am.
love you so much, because I think I'm full of beans a lot myself. And full
I
of other things we
definitely,
shall not
I
name.
yes, exactly. But I definitely don't need it. I do just fine with decaf. It's
Yeah,
good.
as I'm sipping my like third cup of coffee right here.
Yes.
So I've asked Priscilla to do one of our traditions, which is to lead us in a pause, which I call an intentional shift in behavior. And Priscilla, you've graciously accepted. So would you do us the honors and help us get into the pause mode
Yeah.
here with you today?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Okay, I'm going to close my eyes because that's how I do your pauses. So everybody can do what they want. But imagine you are walking into a room, just the doorway alone triggers you to think about where you're going, what you're doing, and how you could show up. As you walk in, you think about that thing welling up in you that you can't help but do, that special some way that you have of looking at the world. How can you, in this new room, give that space? How can you let that emerge and put a pause on the other pressing issues of the world, all the deadlines, all the demands? So you choose right now to be in that room, to give your best, and to truly give what you have to offer. And just as we come back into our day, we think about how really being our very core self is going to set us up for much bigger wins. And that we look around that room and we can see other people and we can see the things they can contribute. And we just pause and think about that for a minute. How can we see people in this room differently? And as we like to say in my company, and with that, I'm in.
Oh, thank you for sharing. Can I share a little bit about my visualization there?
Yeah,
For a
definitely.
second? Yeah. So for me, I walked through the door and there was literally a pause button and I've hit it and I put on headphones. I put on like ear mufflers, I think. And I saw other people when they showed up around me and they were all there just and the message was like, you're supported. Don't leave these people behind. Like they're part of who will help get you where you need to go. And I just really am touched by what can happen even in what was that, maybe 2 minutes tops.
Tops.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
I learned from the best, Rachel.
Awesome. Awesome. So with that, now let's talk about your book, Collaboration is the New Competition. And I know you and I were just catching up before I hit record, where you were speaking about your world, which is B2B. We mentioned that in the intro, as well as research marketing. And this is your domain. You're the queen bee of this. So tell us about why, we're going to talk about what this new term is, like, why do we need to collaborate now more than ever? And what do we do about it? Like, how do we go from here? So tell us about, I'd love to hear a little bit about your story and how this book came to be.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Well, I'm the fifth of 5 girls, and so I think I know a little something about collaboration. But I kind of had this unfair advantage in life. I was always a part of a gang. I was never alone. And I think when we make that transition into the business world, unfortunately, our worlds often become incredibly siloed. We become incredibly isolated. We are told we have to make it on our own. And there's this incredible Protestant work ethic and pulling up of our own bootstraps idea that we have in our society and in our culture. And sometimes we need to question that and wonder if that's really a worthy way or if it's just maybe not the only way. But fast forward to a very digitally integrated world. I just want to say congratulations to everyone who's here. You made it through the pandemic, and no small feat. And I'm certainly not making light of that in any way, shape, or form. I'm saying, could you just pause for a minute and be grateful to yourself? You made it through that, but what's next? Right? How do we need to act? And the truth, what I saw out there in the corporate world is that many small companies would come in, startups, or even a company that had maybe done a little bit, but really needed to push forward. And so they would take the tack that they need to do it on their own. And, the business world is just really not what it used to be in this sense. There's good news and bad news. The good news is you can't do it alone. And the bad news is you can't do it alone anymore. So you see all these amazing, collabs that are going on with big brands. It's because they understand that you can't just, even Disney will work with, another company. You see collabs even between, different people you've always perceived as competitors. They know that at a very large level. They need influencers, they need bigger brands, but we need this too in our daily lives, in our organizations, in our PTOs, in our companies, in our own careers, etc.
Yeah. I'm hearing we have to switch our mindset a little bit. So we come from a world where we're looking over our shoulder for the next threat and scanning ourselves silly, making sure we protect our IP or whatever that is, right? And you're telling me and us that that's the old model. That model's kind of outdated. And we need and for us to now move into a new territory post-pandemic, post all of these things, we need to collaborate. It's like a must do for all of us. Is that what I'm
Yeah.
hearing, especially as our leaders moving forward?
Yeah. Yeah. Just one little change to that. I will say that collaboration does not mean we are sharing our IP. I do believe that you can hold trade secrets very tightly and still collaborate very
Yeah,
beautifully. And we all
I
have
will.
certain remits that we need to get done for our work. I have signed so many NDAs, it's ridiculous because of all the companies I work at. I have my eyeballs on P&Ls for multiple companies. I have to keep this stuff tight and, just, you know, I just have real legal
Yeah.
issues that I have to protect. And that's for my good and for the good of my clients. But we truly can collaborate without sharing those things and without causing any kind of infringement on our rights, but yet making a much bigger win in the future for more people.
I think that's a great distinction. So I'm glad you called that out too, because my sense is there's a fear. Like, what is your take? Is there a hesitancy and a fear to move forward in collaboration? Like, what do we need to do to move over through that? And my other question is around, is there an example in your book or that you can share that's maybe a good example, like a tangible success story that you want to?
Yeah. Yeah. What's interesting is that in the first half of the book, it's all about what I call setting sail. So getting started, right? And to your first question was, what is the hesitancy or what is the fear? And I think the reality there is a lot of people think they've collaborated, and it's been called collaboration, but I'm telling you, it was not collaboration. And so let me give you a really good example of that. And I use this in the story in the book. My son Sawyer in 5th grade, and I'm not joking. I could start this story. It's a tale as old as time, and you could finish it because you've experienced this. You're in the 5th grade. The teacher says, we're going to do a collab project. So what does this mean? Okay. You have an A student, you have a C student, and you have a failing student. And of course, they're going to put them together, right? Because this is what we've all dealt with, right? Everybody's twitching now, right? So the problem there is that the A student has everything to lose. The C student has nothing to win, nothing to lose. And the failing student has nothing to lose, everything to gain. That is not going to be a collaboration. In fact, what I set out in my book, the framework, is that a true collaboration requires 3 things. Number 1, it requires that you have something to lose and something to gain. Everyone who's participating has to be on both sides of that seesaw. And then secondly, you have to engage with people who will not hold their cards too close to the chest. Now, I've said that about not sharing trade secrets, but they cannot have hidden agendas, right? They need to be able to come to the table and explain what it is they need from this particular collab, right? And then the third thing is, now, why am I going to blank? Oh, and then they have to have a real drive to win. So you want people who are invested in this. They need to win for themselves, which sometimes our society looks down on, right? Like, you can't come in and be selfish. Yes, you can. You have goals, you have, remits for your work. So they have to have a real drive to win for themselves and the drive to win for you too. So if you get those 3 things going, then you really have true collaboration. And so back to that real world example is that what you think you were on a collaboration, and a lot of us who've served on boards feel this too. You remember being on a board and all the work ends up being that you're going to get it done and the other people just show up for the board, or half the time don't show up for the board meeting. And you're like, what? How are we working together here? No, you're not working together. You're working in proximity. And that is geography, and that is not true collaboration. So that's what I talk about. That's a good example of, like, we've all had that from our 5th grade,
Yeah.
experience. But I put a lot of other examples of work examples of how it can work as well. But also in kind of back to that example, of course, the A student is going to do all the work, the C student's along for the ride, and the failing student's going to be like, sweet, I'm just gonna like, this is set for me. And so that's why people have a little bit of fear, or maybe, a little trepidation when they are thinking about
Yeah.
collaborating.
I feel like we've been burned in that 5th grade example. At least myself as I was the A student, always good
Yes, yes.
C. And man, it was tough in those times, and I relate in other instances as well.
Right.
So what do we do then in terms of those? I love those 3 things. where there's no hidden agendas, there's a drive to win, and everyone has something to give and to get as well.
Yeah.
So so how do you vet with that? Like, do we just ask folks? Are we just on the radar, feeling everybody out? What would you propose?
Yeah. So you said at the beginning that this is really I'm offering a mindset shift, right? I'm not offering a prescribed step by step of how this will work. In fact, I talk in my book about how that doesn't work. Prescriptive steps, that's just not the way it's going to
But we all want
work.
the formula. You don't
I
have the formula,
know,
Priscilla?
no, there's no formula, but I can give you some tools to help out.
Yeah.
But I will say it is that mindset shift to seeing those moments. For example, I call those the kumbaya moments, where people said that they're collaborating, but really they're just around the campfire sharing ideas and doing, but there's no collaboration coming out of it. And so that is geography. That is not collaboration, right? And so I'm not saying that those aren't some good feelings. It's nice to get together with people, but please don't mistake it for collaboration. And so I offer that mindset and say, instead, you could call that spade a spade and say, you know what? Yeah, I'll get together with you. I'll roast weenies. We'll have, sing a couple songs. It'll be great. But when I'm really ready to collaborate, I'm going to find people who fit that framework. And I'm going to set that up properly. And then, as we all know, you're going to set out and get something started, something's going to go wrong. And what I offer in the book, really the last half of the book, is 7 chapters of 7 different anchors that I like to use when I feel like things have gone adrift or a storm is coming and this is not going to end well. And so I do love to sail. And so I offer this metaphor because I think it is helpful. A lot of people who are not sailors might not
I like
know.
sailing too.
You like sailing? Okay, so I could ask you what kind of anchor you have on your boat, and you have the specific kind of anchor, or you have 2 or 3 on your boat that work for different types of sailing. So different types of bottoms. So for a sandy bottom or a muddy area, or for rock outcropping, you need a different anchor in order to hold you fast during that hard time. So when we have that hard time, which anchor are we going to reach for? Which one will give us that moment of pause to say, let's regroup, right?
Love that you worked in the metaphor. So let's go through these anchors. I think that this is really important so that we don't go adrift, so to speak. And like you said, stay the course. The sense is there's so much noise out there, distraction, or we feel like we're pulled in other directions, whether it's the proximity things like you were saying. So help us know what these anchors are so we can start to employ them. And my sense is as well, this can work for any of us, right? So you don't need to be the head of a marketing department. You could be the CEO, you could be ramping up in a new role, you could do anything, right?
Right, absolutely. So once we agree what collaboration is, then these are some ways that you could help get it back on track, or what went wrong. Maybe can we chart a new course? The first thing that I talk about is ABH, always be helping. And this is about, are you sure that you led with giving something? Right? Because maybe your collaboration is failing because actually you stand to get everything and you're not actually giving anything to anyone else. And so those things might change over time. Maybe as the collab started, you began with helping and you gave someone help, but maybe there's new people been added to the group. And now the question is, are we sure we're leading with helping everybody else achieve their goals? So there's more to it there, but I'll try and touch on these very quickly. The second one gets a lot of traction. A lot of podcasters ask me about the second one, which is itchy backs. And it's, again, a mindset shift to say, I'm not here just for all my needs. Yeah, I've got this thing I can't quite get, so I need to collaborate in order to get someone to scratch my back. But it is about walking into a room and really assessing things differently and turning the eyes on to the other problems people have. The reason why that is so important is because you need to be able to put people together. You need to identify adjacent problems. So I need to know what you need, Rachel, in order to figure out how I can get what I need. And maybe if we both are very transparent about it and we find 4 other people that need it, we could work together. So for example, you and I, we love to, get paid to speak at companies, at events. We love to talk about our books, right? And so we collaborate together. Well, I'm going to go in, always be helping. Hey, Rachel, come be on my podcast, right? So you're going to lead with that. And then you're going to say, yes, but she needs this. I had someone reach out to me this week asking if I could speak at an event. And of course, my next thought is, sure, do you need more people? Because I certainly have a group of other people who have that same itchy back as I do. And so I want to be mindful when I'm getting opportunities, how can I translate this into a bigger win? So you got to start asking people what they need and what's that spot on their back that they can't seem to quite get.
Yeah, how can I help scratch your back? Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a couple others, digital first, vice versa, Uber or Lyft. I love this one. This one could be a good takeaway today, but you mentioned that I speak around the world, and often I start speaking at market research events. And so they're good at getting polls and, take a survey. So I ask, which ones of you are dyed-in-the-wool Uber fans and who's a Lyft fan, right? And maybe if I'm in London, it'll be black cabs, or maybe if I'm in New York, it's yellow cabs. But the point is, which one do you prefer? And so people will tell me, right? I'll survey the audience. But at the end, I say, yes. And when was the last time you got in that vehicle and you told the driver, take me anywhere you want to go? And they're all like, well, no, of course we wouldn't do that. And I'm like, unfortunately, we do that all the time. So for example, the, real world example of that is, oh, I want to reach people. I love LinkedIn. Okay, well, that's your personal preference. But if your most ideal, client is over on X, then you're never going to reach them, right? So we say, oh, I don't like conferences. Okay, well, that's interesting. That's a preference statement. But if what you need to do for your remit is go to conferences, then I'm sorry that you don't like it. Like, learn to like it. So that's a little bit helpful about like how our own preferences keep us from going into this. And I could ask this back to you, Rachel. I think you see this a lot, and you probably help companies out of this. A lot of them may come to you and say, oh, we don't do employee, we don't deal with like psychological help with employees, right? Like, oh, I don't do meditation.
Right. Yeah. So I'm hearing, to really help collaboration, it's about, knowing what you want too, and then guidance and steering towards getting there, and helping others understand what that looks like for you, not just kind of setting up a very, very vague agenda of what you might need. Like, we need more revenue or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Nobody can help you with that. But if they say, if you say to me, but I need an introduction to this person by the end of next week, can you do that? Now all of a sudden I can help you. Right. Because now I'm very
anyone
clear.
in the blank space, or
Yeah. So really getting good with that. I help people with one of the anchors, rule of 15, which is just about how to, in terms of a cadence, how do I get that going? And because a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to be icky and salesy. And I'm like, okay, here's the answer. Don't be icky and salesy. Like, it really is that simple. Let's think about what other things you need to do for people, that can balance that get for me, get for you. So I give people a cadence that would work. But the last one I think is interesting, and it's called Be the Zebra. And it really comes from Gestalt thinking, which if you could visualize for a moment. So I've got 16 dots, on a page, 15 of them are blue and one of them is white. And so in order for that one to get noticed, we've got a 16-to-1, ratio. But if you show up in that same room and refuse to be a dot and are a zebra instead, now you're one zebra and 15 dots. Now we've got a 2-to-1 ratio of being noticed, right? So it's this idea that a lot of people just kind of like to swim in the sea of sameness. It's like, oh yes, like you said, yeah, we need more revenue. Help me with revenue. It's like, no, like, what is the message? I need to be on more podcasts this year. I need 3 new leads for companies that want to bring me in and help me talk about collaboration with their team. Boom. Done. Now I could come up with something like Be the Zebra, or come up, yeah, and I have some anchors, and I try and give something more personal or more specific that I can be remembered for. And so what I see from there is that people just kind of want to be known for a lot of different things, but think about how successful you've been with Pause and the Pausecast and the workbook, and, showing up for places. You're probably tired of talking about pausing.
A lot of pausing that is going through this mouth here for me. Yeah, but I
Right.
think what I'm hearing is repetition equals consistency,
Yeah.
and that's a currency in itself, right? Like
Yeah.
where people know what to expect from you and know what your message is, or what you're all about,
Right, right. And
right?
you always bring in a good piece of just yourself, you're willing to be a little bit vulnerable. And so you're more memorable, because of that. And so
Yeah.
you tell your own story, about why you came to, having to have a pause. And that story of nearly breaking yourself makes you memorable, right? And so I can always reflect on that and say, well, she knows what she's talking about. I've heard the story. And so that's the part of how you embraced being the
Mm.
zebra, and that's what can draw other people toward you to collaborate with them.
Yeah, well, that's a great point. I know vulnerability is something, as a EQ, high EQ leader, I like to call it, is something that's really important because it just makes you more human, and all of us really just are human at the end of the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether we're whatever anchor we're working on, or how we're collaborating. If we're not, what's your take on this? I think the more, and that's also a fear, right? We feel
Mm-hmm.
exposed if we're too
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable, or we share, hey, I flubbed up, or this
Mm-hmm.
didn't go as planned, and now we gotta backtrack a little bit, or I don't know, whatever they might be. But key
Right.
is, to me, vulnerability is it part of your equation of this new world of collaboration?
Absolutely. But I think to that other side, I think you can attest to, you have to be careful who you're vulnerable with.
Mm.
Being vulnerable is amazing, but being vulnerable with the wrong people is absolutely disaster. And that's like where you see people oversharing things that, or maybe things that are too personal, like the relationship is not where it needs to be. So I think in business, I think that's why people are asking me for very specifics about, well, for example, on LinkedIn, how much do I make it personal? How vulnerable do I need to be? How much, like we're all grappling with this, but that's
Yeah.
kind of why I say you need to come out with vulnerability that has protection around it, right? Certain people can handle that information about you. Likewise, with collaboration, this framework will help you not get involved with collaboration with people who are the failing students and will leave all of the work to you. So I'm not saying collaborate every time. No,
Do
I'm saying
your work, do your homework, right?
be careful. Yeah. And set it up so that you can have a win. So you really do need to, as you said at the beginning, vet these people.
Yeah, yeah. I think like what I'm hearing a lot is, how do I create trust?
Mm-hmm.
How do I build this trust and a collective of, circle of trust, if you will, and be in that space to collaborate. And that to me is relationships. Would you
Right.
agree? Is there anything else like that you would offer as a way to continue to keep your eye on that?
Well, obviously, I would love to come in and talk to groups about, helping them kind of work through the nuances of it. But I do agree that it is about trust. And I talk in the book a little bit about some ways even we need to take a different look at hierarchy in relationships when we're talking. For example, I'm the CEO in my company. So if I want people to collaborate, if I walk in the room and I'm the first person to talk and practically the only person to talk, guess what? Not a lot of collaboration is going to happen because the hierarchy takes over. And
Yeah.
so I don't think that we need to undo hierarchy in any way, shape, or form, but you need to be aware of it. And so I think it's about like, there's that trust factor and being able to say, kind of back to the old adage, like, why am I speaking? And setting up, like if you do get a room full and these are the people, the ground rules, and we're going to collaborate, you have to understand that a little bit of your hierarchy is going to need to be upended for a time for the purpose of collaboration. And I think that is what gains people's trust. Like, oh, she is listening to me. Oh, she is willing to have someone else speak. Okay, then that keeps a collaboration positive.
Yeah. And that goes back to your first tenet of always be helping. My sense is, right, like help people be heard,
Yeah.
how can you serve so that people feel like they have a voice and that they're safe in
Right.
that respect, so that they can share and build the
Mhm.
trust. It's
Yeah.
important, whether it's in the team or with others. That's super important. I had a question around AI for this, because I think this is also a big piece of what everyone's wondering about. How can you use AI, right? Generative AI, let's say, for better collaboration, or for like
Mm.
facilitating where you can go as you build out this new way or
Mhm.
evolve in this way for collaboration.
Oh, I love it. So I'm a huge fan of AI.
Your
We've been
eyes just got really big.
I love
Like
it. Yeah,
5
it
years
is.
old in the candy store. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. It's changed our entire industry, and we love how much faster and leaner we can work with AI. We've developed our own, our own bots and our own systems, and are continue to just constantly program what we can. But I think in the creative space, it is so beautiful because you can really put in beautiful prompts. Like it really is about writing some amazing prompts and asking, artificial intelligence to think about something a different way, a way you're not seeing it. And I actually enjoy using even something as simple as Chat GPT in the round with groups, right? Because what's
Yeah.
happening is that I'm seeing my employees use different chatbots differently than I do. And I'm just sitting there watching, wait, what did you
How did
just
that
do?
happen? What
How
did you
did that
do?
happen? And it's so beautiful. But sometimes with in a creative world, we get stuck, thinking about things often from the same direction. But there are really beautiful moments that, generative AI can create a spark for us and go, oh, wait, no, it wasn't telling me that, but now that spawned another idea in my own brain. And I'm like, now we're running a completely different way. So I think there's amazing collaboration that can go on with AI, but I also feel like you're going to get the most out of it. AI is then just one singularity again, right? And so bringing multiple people into the room to collaborate with AI, and even as we have created, we've coded different things. I never let one person decide on the coding of, what we're creating for AI, because we need different perspectives in there helping us create something
Yeah.
new.
And that's the collaboration right back at the square one as
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I feel like there's so much, it feels like exponential shifts of possibility with AI using this model of
Yeah,
collaboration. That's
yeah,
exciting.
for sure. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
listen, you talked about fear earlier, and everybody's always going to be afraid. People at the beginning of my career, they were afraid of Facebook, they were afraid of LinkedIn. Somebody, thought at some point, they were afraid of the telegraph,
Yeah.
and, and it was going to take all of the horses' jobs away. How are we going to, deliver the, I mean, it's just, everything is just progress. And so I do think, of course, we need to protect what we need to protect, and security and privacy is super important. And like I said, we're not sharing trade secrets. We've got to keep that bound up in proper channels.
Yeah.
But it should not keep us from collaborating, because at the end, you said we're humans. We are built for collaboration. We are built for belonging. We are built to work together. And I think that just trying to, repress that is hurting our society.
Well said. Yeah. And I think just kind of wrapping this all up, for our biggest number one takeaway, if you could name one thing that, I think is the biggest message of your book and your expertise, what would you say for that?
I'd say get very clear about what you need, and then turn your eyes on to what other people need. That shift alone, like if you can marry those two without diminishing one or the other, you're going to start, living very differently. And I have to stop your podcast and just say, listen, guys, you want to collaborate with Rachel, go out and give her a review on her podcast or on her book. For all of us who've read it and have gained something from it, I know it's so easy to not go back and give someone a review, but it's so important because it's how people hear these new ideas and new collaborations are started. So that's my little plug for you.
Thank you. Look at you, always be helping. You're so good at it. You're like a pro. You're like the pro in my eyes. So thank you for being the model, Priscilla, and just, demonstrating it through the way you are in your day-to-day, moment by moment life. And I commend you for that. Is there anything else, just anything else you'd want to share that we haven't talked about yet that would be helpful?
I guess I would say, this is a very good example with the two of us. We'll always be friends. We'll always be looking to help each other. And I would say, start looking at your life like this, like you are, surround yourself with people who want to act like this, because not everybody does, and it's okay. So, you can edge some people out, and you could use some
Yeah.
of these, some of these standards to vet even the people you want in your network. So, don't walk around complaining saying, oh, so-and-so is not helping me, or this person not helping. You know what? Just bye. Goodbye.
Show
And
them
thank
the
you for
door.
serving me up until now, but I'm
Yeah.
going into a different room, and start reaching out to people. We truly have access to anybody in this digital age. So start reaching out to other people. And I think a great example would be, look at, if you like Rachel stuff, go look at who follows Rachel. Guess what? Those people are probably going to be like you. And so it makes sense to keep finding, colleagues and networking within that same self-selective group. And that's going to give you more people that you can
Mhm.
truly collaborate with.
Yeah, that's so good. And just know that that's first and foremost. How can I serve? What can how can I help? Who can I help? And that's
Hmm.
the message I'm getting from you. So thank you. That's perfect
Yeah.
as a way to, I think, end this discussion for all of us. I think as leaders in our respective fields here, the sense is, yeah, collaboration is the new competition, like you say, and it's imperative. It's
Hmm.
critical for
Yeah.
what's next for yourself, whether that means not going alone and getting support individually or collectively for your initiatives and things like that. So for
Awesome.
you, how do we find more about you out? What do we want, if we want to bring you on board to talk to our team, where do we
Yeah.
go? How do we find you? Where do we go in
Yeah.
the world?
Awesome. So PriscillaMcKinney.com is specifically about me as an author. There are guides and workbooks that you like, work pages that you need from the book. And so they're free right on the website. So click there. But on the actual free resources page, there's also a speaker packet for me that gives you all the information of how to bring me into your team and to work through collaboration. And of course, for my team, you can always find us at littlebirdmarketing.com. And on our resources page, we have tons of free stuff. We lead with giving for sure. We do not hound anybody on that. So if you want to download an awesome guide about anything in the marketing world, you can get that there as well. And of course, I'm always available on LinkedIn. I'm an influencer out there, and I will respond to you personally.
Absolutely. I love, yeah, you're so tangible, I'd say, and being able to respond so well and active on LinkedIn. And
Mhm.
that sounds really good in terms of learning more, going to those sites. We'll put that in the show notes as well.
Awesome.
All right. Well, I think this has been incredible, Priscilla. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing your wisdom today on the Pausecast. And just love being in collaboration with you as we continue. We could have just been like casual acquaintances. We passed
Mm,
each other that was 5+ years ago. And now look at where we are. So just a testament, I think, to your work and how collaboration can really lead to your next level.
for sure. Thanks for having me. I love the podcast.
Thank you.